Hey guys, back again with another video, a review on Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch. One of my most anticipated games of the year. Ever since they first showed this game, it always looked awesome, and I've been a huge fan of the Mario series ever since I was a kid. With the original Super Mario Brothers, it was the first game I ever played. And the 3D Mario games, I'll admit I've never been as big into them as I was the 2D games or the more like linear style games. Mario 64, I beat it for the first time last year, and I actually have a review of it up on the channel, and I really enjoyed it. But other than that, I never played Sunshine. I did like the Galaxy games, what I played when they first came out, but they never stuck with me the way they do a lot of people. But Mario 64 kind of gave me a newfound appreciation, I guess, for 3D Mario games, more exploration-focused 3D Mario games, which, honestly, since Sunshine, we haven't really gotten one. It's the type of Mario game that I feel like it's weird. Like, Nintendo hasn't done one in the style of 64 in so long. With 3D Mario games, I mean, Galaxy games are probably the most similar, but the Galaxy games were a little more smaller scale. The environments were very small, and it had a fairly linear progression to it. It was more focused on like smaller challenges and smaller worlds, like from point A to point B. Mario 64, the environments were more open. And this game kind of goes back to that, which we'll get into that in the gameplay, but I guess before we get off into the review, my general opinion on this game, I put close to 70 hours into this game and loved almost every second of it. I got obsessed with this game. There are a total of, I believe there's around 840 to 860 moons in this game that you can get. Out of a possible, you can like max the moon meter at 999, but you have to buy them to get up to that point. But I basically beat the game with 454, and then after that I got into the post-game content and eventually got up to 920 moons. I bet I would have had to grind out coins to max my count to 999, which there really wasn't a point in doing that, but I didn't get every single moon in the game. I missed maybe like 10 to 20 of them. We'll get to those later. This is going to be a pretty in-depth review because I have a lot to say about this game. I was obsessive with it. I almost 100%ed this game. I basically got like 99% in this game. Like, I got so close, but there's a few things that keeping me from fully 100%ing it. Too many tedious things. But I love this game. I think this game is incredible. The reviews have come out, and it's been getting, like, wide praise. It's reviewed just as well as Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I actually prefer this. I'm not going to say it's a better game. I think it's just more to do with expectations. Breath of the Wild turned out, it wasn't really what I wanted from a Zelda game, at least in most respects. Whereas Odyssey, this is kind of what I want from a 3D Mario game. This is everything I want. There's a few things I can like point at where it could use improvement, or where they got kind of carried away. I still think you can do better than this, surprisingly. But at the same time, I mean, this is the most fun I've had playing a video game in a long time. Like, it is just pure joy from start to finish. This game, I had the stupidest smile on my face at all times. There was a very few moments in this game where I was pissed off or angry at some design decision. For the most part, it's just stellar design, and it might be my favorite 3D Mario game. In fact, it probably is. I definitely prefer it to 64. I prefer it over the Galaxy games, although I kind of want to play Galaxy 1 and especially 2 again. I feel like I might appreciate those games more if I played them. Maybe I would like it better than this game, but this is one of my favorite Mario games, flat out. When I get obsessed with a game where I try to 100% it, and it's a sign of quality for me, because a lot of games I end up kind of just not doing that because it's just not fun. The process of going for all these moons, though, in this game was so addictive, and I just couldn't get enough of it. But anyways, let's get into the actual review. Story, not much to say here. Like with a lot of 3D Mario games, it's a very well, you know what? It's a kind of a weird, kind of funny storyline this time around, actually, where Bowser wants to marry Peach, and it's basically a rescue Peach storyline. But there's this whole wedding thing that is really weird and surreal for a Mario game, and the way this game ends, I don't want to spoil it, but it the wedding theme works so well with the ending of this game and the final boss. It's really memorable. I don't know, something about the wedding thing that I just kind of like. But anyways, Mario ends up finding this companion that you see here, Cappy, and you kind of have this ship that you travel the world in, and you're going to these different parts of the world getting moons. It's a very simple storyline, but they didn't need to go crazy with it. It has its moments of humor, a few cutscenes here and there. I really do like the game's general just style, like the weird style it has. It's by far one of the weirdest Mario games, I think. Like, it's up there with like Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2. Some really weird stuff in this game, and a lot of just really clever, funny details thrown in constantly. And then a lot of weird stuff, like actual humans you're seeing in New Donk City, and there's like this festival part in that level that is so memorable and so awesome. It's just I don't want to spoil it, but there's one part in the city which a lot of people are probably going to remember that just really stuck with me, and the whole time playing through it, I just had the biggest smile on my face, and I was just like, fuck man, this game. So many times playing this game where I'm just like, this is so good. But yes, story not much to speak of, but it works for this style of game. Gameplay though, and I think structure is, I guess, what I want to talk about first. It's kind of got a similar structure to like Mario Sunshine or 64, where instead of stars you're getting moons, and basically you're powering up your ship with them, and to travel to the next area you have to get a certain amount of moons. The interesting thing with this game is that you actually don't need too many to beat the game. With Mario 64, you needed a good chunk of the stars to actually take on Bowser at the end. In this, from what I gather, you actually only need like around 140 moons, and a lot of people end up beating the game with like around 160 to 200. And the progression is kind of different depending on what player you are. Where each time you first visit a world, you're not going to be able to get every single moon in the world, but you have like this checklist basically to kind of let you know which ones you're missing, and you're not going to be able to get all of them, but you're going to be able to get most of them the first time you visit. So the way I played was I just basically combed these environments for every moon I could possibly get, and when I ended up getting stuck and couldn't figure out how to get some of the ones I was missing, I would use the hint toad to give me like the location on the map. But that's all it will give you, really. So from then, you had to kind of figure it out for yourself, and so I did. And then from there, if I was really stuck, I would like look up a guide. And that's how I kind of played this game. I would basically get every single moon I could possibly get in any given level before I moved on to the next one. So there are certain moons that you have to get in each world, and each world kind of has its mini like point A to point B thorough line basically, where you get a few moons and then you fight an end boss in each world. And then after that, you can basically get some of the moons you missed, but there's not too many you're going to need before you can move on to the next area. And so it's kind of a linear progression in that sense. There are a few points where you're actually going to choose one of two worlds you want to go to next, which is cool. I really appreciate that, but there's no hub world or anything like that. You just have like a kind of a world map screen that you just pick from, which is a little bit of a bummer. I think it would have been cool if there was some kind of hub world like with Super Mario Galaxy or something like that, but it wasn't like a huge deal to me. But basically, it's each player is going to be different. They're going to get a certain amount of moons in each level and then move on to the next. But the way I played it, I was so in love with this game that I wanted every single moon, and it was so fun getting these moons, and each objective was so varied, and exploring these environments was such a blast that, I got obsessive. There's only a couple times where there was a moon where I was like, okay, fuck that, I'm not getting that. So anyways, that's kind of how the structure works, and then once you beat the game, you'll unlock a lot of the moons that you weren't able to access before. And I guess some people actually aren't too big of a fan of this. I actually don't mind it. I think it's a cool incentive to go back to the levels, and you're going to be more familiar with them by the time you revisit them. And the way they open up is really cool as well. And that's where a lot of like the challenge from the game comes in. It's not a particularly difficult game. In fact, it's quite easy from for the main game. The post game is where it gets pretty difficult, especially the very last stage, one of the moon stages. It's like very difficult, like Champions Road levels of difficult in 3D World, but I would say it's easier because I actually did end up finishing it, whereas Champions Road, I never actually finished in 3D World. I thought it was actually too hard. But this game, I did do the hardest level, and yeah, it took me like 2 hours to get through. It was pretty brutal, but it was pretty fun. And I guess I should talk about like the actual general gameplay of this game. Mario's moveset is quite varied in this game. It reminds me of Mario 64. There's a lot of cool things you can do, a lot of cool movement options. You have the classic long jump, you have the triple jump, you have the hat, Cappy, who has a whole new extra set of abilities. Like you're seeing here, you can basically throw it. Mario basically has a projectile attack, and it can like you can attack enemies with it. But you can also capture enemies, and this is kind of the main gimmick of the game. And it's really cool. It's basically, it opens up whole new possibilities within the environments, and each enemy you capture has a different move set. And the way they build on these ideas is just it's such classic Nintendo game design, where they take a concept and they keep building upon it and keep getting crazier with it, and it's always so impressive. One standout example, I think, is the water geyser enemies in the beach level. Just really cool how those guys handle and how you have to get some of the moons. It's just really clever. The game's also hilarious with a lot of the enemies you can take over. You'll never know what to expect next in terms of like enemies to capture. They kind of take the form of the classic Mario power-ups. Whereas in Galaxy, you had a bunch of temporary power-ups. They kind of replaced them, which I'm definitely fine with, considering all the possibilities that open up for you when you capture different enemies. You can also do all these cool sequence breaks with enemies that are kind of surprising. This is one of those games where, like Breath of the Wild, I was constantly saying to myself, "Wow, I didn't know you could do that," or "Wow, I'm surprised you could do that. Was that intended?" It's one of those kinds of games where it's just, you'll always be surprised. There's just so much creativity with this game's obstacles and the moons. Now it isn't perfect. Like I said in the beginning, there's like over 800 moons in this game, so there are going to be a few lazy ones here and there. I do think the game, for the most part, there's actually not too many mini games in this game. They actually stay away from that kind of shit, which I like. And there are definitely some good ones here. There's a tracing minigame where you have to walk around on an outline of an object, and the trace lines will kind of disappear after a while. So you have to keep it to memory, and that minigame was actually kind of cool. I enjoyed that. There's also a picture match type game that's a memory game that's kind of interesting as well. But then you have shit like the jump rope and the volleyball game, which this is probably the worst part of the game overall. If there's one thing that I genuinely hate about this game, it's the jump rope minigame and the volleyball one. They are so fucking punishing, and everyone's been talking about these, where you actually have to jump 100 times over this jump rope and to get a moon. And I couldn't do it. I tried so much, and I couldn't do it. I fucking hated retrying just to get like 70 jumps in and failing. That I gave up. It was way too frustrating. The volleyball minigame is the exact same thing, and it's so weird with this game's difficulty that like the jump rope to me is harder than any actual platforming challenge. I think it's just totally unreasonable, the amount of jump ropes that needed for you to do. But as much as I hate that, it's like this is like one moon out of a possible like 800, and the fact that there's maybe like 10 to 20 that I genuinely don't like. It's pretty impressive. There is also a lot of moons that are admittedly way too simple to find. There's some that you just ground pound a random area and then you'll get it, but those didn't bother me as much as the jump rope and the volleyball ones, and the races. Way too many races in this game. There's like this Koopa that appears in all the levels after you beat the game that you have to do a race, and they're extremely punishing. And you have to basically use speedrun strats to even have a chance, which is very frustrating. Like, these are the kind of moves that I didn't go for. They weren't worth it to me. And that's where the game truly was at its worst, where I was not having fun with it. But other than that, like, I got all the platforming based ones, and exploring these levels was so much fun. It it reminds me of Banjo-Kazooie. It's kind of funny. I actually think this game is closer to Banjo-Kazooie than it is any of the other Mario games. It's far more of a collectathon than any Mario game has been, and the levels are Banjo-Kazooie sized, I would say. They're not too big. The biggest one is probably this one, the desert, which is not even really that big when you think about it. But honestly, I like the size of the levels. I think they're that perfect size for me, where they're big enough not to feel too small and constrained, but they're not too big as to be overwhelming and take forever to get to point A to point B, like Banjo-Tooie, for instance. And the ways of travel, even around the bigger maps, are great. Whereas this one, you get like this taxi tiger type thing to ride around on, which is pretty fun. And these levels, the variety is just pretty amazing in them. There's just so much creativity to them. My favorite level is probably, it might be the desert one, or like the secret level that's unlocked in the post game, which is just a treat for fans of a certain game. But the sand one, I don't know, I kind of like the sand one. It's got this cool vibe to it that I liked quite a bit. There's a few like ones that feel like, I don't know, they're just kind of randomly there, like the Cloud Kingdom. It feels like that was a little rushed, like it should have been a lot bigger. It should have been an actual kingdom, for instance. I think the snow one is probably my least favorite because a huge portion of it is dedicated to racing, like this bouncing racing game that I fucking hated. And in general, the moves just seemed a lot lazier there. And you're seeing the 2D sections here, which, oh man, I love the 2D sections in this game. They're so much fun. And yeah, it's like the moveset Mario has is really interesting as well. I guess I should really talk about that because I think speedrunners are really going to have a lot of fun with this game. A lot of cool moves that are kind of hidden. There's a lot of hidden stuff to kind of make a lot of distance quicker. And the game just controls just so perfectly. The camera rarely ever gave me problems. There's only one instance where it did, which is frustrating because it's actually one of the hardest moves to get in the game, where you have to, like, a bullet bill follows you that has to break a wall, and you have to do these long jumps over these small platforms, and the way that it works, the camera always obstructs your view. Like, there's bricks above you that are always, like, the camera, they kind of get in the way. So you can't accurately gauge your jumps. So that was really frustrating. But other than that one instance, the camera always was good. And there's a lot of camera manipulation in this game. A lot of this game is finding hidden secrets by being really observant, which is that's the kind of stuff I really enjoy. And some of these moves are really well hidden, and some of them are probably perhaps a little too obscure. But some of the moves in this game are tied behind motion controls, which is a bit of a bummer. When I first heard this, I thought it was actually going to be a lot worse than it actually is. Like, for instance, when you throw your cap, if you shake your controller to the right, you'll do, like, this circular attack. And you actually have to use that to get some of the moons. And it's just not accurate. Sometimes you'll shake the controller, you swear you shook it right, and nothing happens. There's a few different moves that you can actually use with the motion controls, but it can be frustrating, but generally you don't use them enough where it becomes like a huge problem. But it was something I noticed. It is one of the parts of the game that I think is not like not perfect. Again, I don't want to be gushing on this game too much because I just absolutely do love this game. The bosses are fantastic in this as well. I think they can be a bit formulaic in the fact that, like, it's like every single one of them is the rule of three hits and they're done. But they have really interesting patterns and they're just really fun to fight, even if they're a bit too easy. And that might be the other thing. I think the game is too easy overall. It's rarely ever tested me. It really only that one final level and then a few moons in the post game. But yeah, in general, I never had too much trouble. You can easily get extra health. Like, it's very easy to get extra health. But then there'll be some moons that are randomly, like, way more difficult than you would expect them to be. Like, there's the one in the sand dungeon where it's on this pillar, and you have to do, like, some really, like, tricky bullet bill manipulation to get to it, which was kind of surprising. I do wish maybe there were a little more moons like that, that, like, just required a lot more thought to actually get to them, but for the most part, I I was enjoying like everything like this game was throwing at me. And yeah, it's fun. It's such a joyous game. It's like, you know, it's filled with all these sorts of like amazing details and just really inspired design that Nintendo is just so good at. And it's just, man, it's like this game is just, it's pure fun. And you know, I miss when games just try to be fucking fun. I don't know. I feel like a lot of games are just getting away from that these days, and they're just trying to be fucking movies, and it's just, I don't know, whatever. That's a rant for a whole other time. Moving on, I don't know if there's anything else to really cover with the gameplay. I mean, it's not like this revolutionary game or anything. It really isn't. It's not. It doesn't break with traditions in the way Breath of the Wild does. But you know what? I don't care. Honestly, this type of Mario game, this collectathon, exploratory type 3D Mario game, we haven't gotten one in so long. And I'm seeing a lot of people on the internet actually complain that a lot of people are like, oh, playing this game makes me realize that I just much prefer the linear side-scrolling Mario games. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. There's plenty of those. We've gotten so many of those. Like, just let us have this one. It's just, I don't know, it's just a little irritating that we finally get a game like this, and then just people just, like, I see a bunch of people just shit on it. And just are like, oh, it turns out I don't actually like this type of style of game. And it's like, I don't know, I miss this style of game. And it's interesting, too, comparing it with, like, Yooka-Laylee. I liked Yooka-Laylee. You all saw my review. I thought that game was pretty good. A lot of people hate it. This game just shits all over it. Now, in retrospect, you know what? Maybe Yooka-Laylee wasn't very good, because, yeah, this game just completely blows out of the water. I do want to see what A Hat in Time is like. I've known a few people say it's actually better than this game, which, that seems crazy to me, but maybe I should give it a chance. Maybe that game would actually very much surprise me, but I don't know. I guess what I was saying before, this game is not like this game that breaks with traditions like Breath of the Wild. But you know what? It's more what I want from a Mario game. You know, it fires on all cylinders for me personally, and it's kind of what I look for out of a 3D Mario game. Like it's what I imagined this to be. It ended up being. So I'm very satisfied with it, but. I can see some other people's viewpoints and why some people might think this is not as like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece like something like Breath of the Wild. But I don't know, Breath of the Wild, I think there's like that game there's more about it that compared to other Zelda games, I feel like it was a letdown in a lot of key areas. Whereas this, I think like when you compare this to Mario 64, like yeah, the challenge here is not, it's not like Mario 64 challenge, but this game doesn't have a shitty camera. This game plays a hell of a lot better than Mario 64 does, even though the actual game design might not be as like revolutionary or anything like that. But anyways, moving on to the visuals, this game looks phenomenal. I love the look of this game. It's so colorful. It's so vibrant. It's like, man, it's just everything really pops, especially when you play it on the gamepad, the Switch gamepad. Just really impressive. It's the style of this is just great. The way the 2D sections look, and the way like they use a lot of background and foreground elements in those sections. A lot of really cool visual tricks in this game as well, that I really wouldn't want to spoil. It's just, yeah, it's an amazing looking game. And I don't know, it's just really colorful and vibrant to look at. I think it might be one of the best looking games on the Switch for me, actually. I don't know, I really like the look of this game. A lot of like the enemy designs and things like that. And again, this game isn't afraid to be weird. Like with the dinosaur and some of the environments. I feel like Nintendo has gotten a little bit safe with a lot of their franchises lately. And this, I don't know, they decided to be really weird and abstract in a lot of ways, which I appreciate. The soundtrack is awesome, actually. I was pleasantly surprised by the soundtrack. I was expecting it to be a little underwhelming, but man, there's some really catchy, memorable songs in this game. The one that plays in the Lost Kingdom, I think, is really a standout track. The Water Kingdom has really excellent music. It reminded me of the Zora domain in Majora's Mask, actually. which if anything reminds me of Majora's Mask, it's a good thing. Yeah, the song that plays in the Bowser's Kingdom level is really good as well. Yeah, honestly, I've heard a lot of people kind of be down on the music, but honestly, I thought it was actually pretty good. I thought it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be kind of safe and generic, but it's actually not. It's quite good. I really did like the music. But yeah, audiovisual presentation overall in this game is just stellar. I mean, that's about it. I mean, there's probably a few things I missed with gameplay. Now that I'm thinking about it, coins, tons of coins in this game. You can spend coins to get costumes and stickers for your ship, which is fun. It rewards exploration. The exploration in this game, like with Breath of the Wild, is just really rewarding and fun. The way lives work, I actually like in this game. Some people probably are not going to like it. A lot of like hardcore, I don't know, platformer fans or something. But yeah, every time you die, you lose coins. But then you're generally put back where you died, or at least like not too long before you died. And if you lose all your coins, you're not going to get like a game over or anything. No game overs in this game. It's just it's not very punishing with your deaths, but you do have to do stuff over. It's just not, you never have to do too much, other than the very final like super challenge level, which you actually have to get through like a 30-minute level without getting losing a life, or you go back to the beginning. That was a little frustrating. That could be a little frustrating, but I can understand it because it was, you know, the big challenge of the game. But yeah, I don't mind the fact that they did away with the live system. I think it cuts out a lot of tedium that might have been in the game. Although honestly, you get so much fucking coins, so many coins in this game that you'll never get down to zero. It's almost impossible. There's purple coins in each world. 100 purple coins. They unlock further costumes for Mario. There's a lot of crazy costumes. The purple coins can be a little annoying. It can be like finding a needle in a haystack at times, which I've never liked in games, but they weren't too bad. I actually got them all in every level, which I was kind of surprised I was able to. But yeah, man, what a game! It's just pure joy and fun from start to finish. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. A lot of these reviews are giving it like 10 out of 10, and I don't know. I do think it's too easy. I think there are a lot of moons that have some lazy design behind them. The mini games, for the most part, aren't very good. A lot of the worlds feel a little rushed and incomplete. Yeah, not a perfect game. There's definitely things about it that you can criticize, but I think overall, though, it's just such a fun game that it ends up not mattering all that much for me. And this is one of my favorite games of the year. This is going to be very high for me. I'm kind of going back and forth between this and Persona 5. I think one of those two is like my game of the year. It's certainly the most fun I've had playing a game this year. And it's probably one of the more consistent games I've played this year. This game never dragged for me, like almost never. It's like there was maybe like 5 minutes of this game that I hated, and it was those short little mini games. But anyways, guys, what did you think of Odyssey? Have you been playing it? I'm sure a lot of you have been playing it. And yeah, like I'm almost 100% of this game. I mean, I never do that. With games. It's really a sign of the quality that I actually bothered to do like almost everything in this game. Man, it's packed with content though. Like holy shit! Like this is one of the biggest Mario games. Like you get your money's worth as well with this game as well. But if you have a Switch, this is a must-buy. You probably already have it, but it's the most amount of time I put into the Switch. I played Zelda on the Wii U, so it's like the Switch was kind of gathering dust a little bit for me. But this just like brought it back, and man, I spent so much time with this game. It's crazy. But anyways, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.